or anything like that. I'll just kind of riff. We'll do it like I don't know. There's other there's Joe Rogan. There's probably other people who do podcasts that do that sort of like we were talking beforehand and now we just kept talking as the show started. And oh look, it looks so natural. I never wanted to do that because I just felt like I'd be copying it. But that is one way to do it where people feel like
libertarians shouldn't defend IP. Like everything is a remix. Like
that's true.
Like we wouldn't be able to make any music, any movies, anything, at all ever if we didn't have, use of the same things that other people had previously used. So,
yeah, no, that's true. And even just sometimes it's just you're taking it and slightly tweaking it your way or whatever. It just depends on what medium of property we're talking about, or it's not. No, I should even call it property. Just medium of creative outputs or whatever. Which that gets tricky when we're talking about AI, which I know is not what we're here to talk about right now. But I know you have very
actually, it partially is. It partially is. And the reason it partially is something that I'll get into. But, like, I'll just, cut to the chase at like thematically and say that fascists love AI because it gives them the ability to produce elements of culture without the actual creators of those elements, which successfully allows them to eliminate those elements and produce things counter to the way that the actual culture was created. Like, making jazz music but hating black people.
I mean, like, I see the potential for what you're saying, but I also feel like maybe it'll change, but I feel like the AI art right now just is usually obviously AI art and sucks. So it doesn't truly replace anything yet. I guess it could get good enough to a point where you can't tell the difference. And if that happens, I guess it's just a matter of like if the I don't know. That's a whole different tangent. I have a lot of mixed feelings on that stuff too. So
the right is like in its present state, not necessarily in all possible states, but the right in its present state is an immortalist death cult. And what I mean by that is that it's got a whole lot of elements in it that love AI because it like in space travel and whatever else the technological advancement is, because it carries with it the promise that they can, proceed into other worlds, into the afterlife, into, upload their brain into the clouds so that they can live on and be the scions of future ideas. Because they're arrogant, they're anti-Christ in that and many other ways, and they hate the idea of anybody not listening to them for even a second, because like the idea of their consciousness fading, they know that if there is a hell, their sins are taking them there, and they know that if there isn't one, they're going to blink out of existence more than likely, and they're terrified. And instead of just trying to leave a lasting legacy and do what they can while they're here and not be, demonic ghouls, they instead choose to try to advance to space, for instance, so that they can leave all the problems behind that they've created. And while they're doing that, while they're being the ushers of humanity to other places that they can also damage, because humans have not earned their place on this planet, much less any other. And like while they're doing that, they can massively damage this place, create systems that poison the water, poison the people, and like give them diseases, crank up their power bills, whatever they need to do in order to create these massive data centers that damage people's ability to basically live, just so that they can, advance their particular agendas and have technology that allows them to forever be spirits in the machine.
So what you're saying is that basically on one hand, there's the possibility of a dystopian future that's Brave New World, but on the other hand, there's a possible of a dystopian future that's like the Disney movie WALL-E.
Yes. But also like That's
But
the
like,
thing.
but not but like without all the cute Disney stuff to make it a child movie, but just like the pure dystopian part of Wall-E, where like you're just living in a pod in a spaceship controlled by AI. Like that's what that movie is at the end of the
Well, I
day.
mean, the Matrix is Wall-E for grown-ups, so
That's a good example too. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No. Uh we experimented with, like, you people who were just rolling in here might have missed. We were just kind of riffing as we started this stream out, because we started late because I am much too busy just keeping up with all the different projects I am doing. See some of you in the comments. Hello, how you doing? Sorry we got started late, but we're doing a late night stream here tonight on something that we've kind of touched on maybe tangentially before, but not quite this exact topic. This We decided to have a conversation back when I made some disgruntled comments about some memes coming out of a libertarian state account. I Despite the fact that I generally am right wing, culturally speaking, I actually don't want the LP to be just a, I don't know, rightoid or whatever derogative term people use these days to describe the right. I don't want the LP to be in the culture war. I actually like the idea of like Chase Oliver has said this, and other people have said this, that like we should just have a ceasefire in the culture war. Actually, the early days of the Mises Caucus, that's kind of what they said. I don't think they're doing a good job of that these days. That's not to say that I'm still love a lot of the people who were part of the Mises Caucus. I'm not anti Mises Caucus. I know that's another point of disagreement to some extent. I'm anti some of the stuff the Mises Caucus is doing, but there's a lot of people there that I don't hate or don't think are bad people. But I definitely think that, like, the beyond just the party, right? Because we could have a whole discussion on just like, is there even a purpose for the party? Can the party be saved? All this, right? But just in terms of the movement and in terms of how we message, and how can we have a liberty movement where you have left, right, and center that obviously are going to have their disagreements, but like can find ways to message a general message of liberty together out to a enslaved, increasingly bankrupt world because of these state systems we live under. Like, can we unite them behind the things we agree with? And I want that, but I think the best way to do it is to kind of like, at least when it comes to certain things like messaging from like the official libertarian accounts, we should try to appeal to the lowest like the not the lowest common denominator, but just sort of the general liberty messaging that we all agree with. And I think that I'm actually not against there being it'd be really hypocritical if I was against the opposite of what I'm doing. I'm part of the Libertarian Christian Institute. I didn't even do intros. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm Jacob Winograd. I'm the host of the Biblical Anarchy podcast here at the Libertarian Christian Institute. So I'm obviously not saying, because I'd be a huge hypocrite if I was, I'm not saying you can't go start your own libertarian atheist. I mean, there's Atheists for Liberty. You could have a libertarian group that's dedicated just to messaging to LGBT people, and I would not begrudge you for it. I might not, agree with all your messaging, but I wouldn't really feel a need to publicly complain about it. But I think there's a difference between specialized units in the liberty movement doing messaging and then like official accounts like the LP and their state affiliates uh, doing it. So I guess that's kind of like what started this. And then you had, of course, some disagreements with that, not just pertaining to this idea of like messaging, but just that you think actually because of the right wing, which I kind of say in quotes because I don't, as a right wing libertarian, I question some of the right wingness of the current administration. But that's, again, as people know about me, I have people on who are left, right, and center. So there's a lot of stuff where I know I'm saying things, and you could go, but wait, and we'll have to try to keep the focus on the things that we came to talk about. But to end my opening rant here, I know you have some things you want to say about the current administration we have going after specific groups of people, and that we as libertarians should actually be, no matter where we're coming from, messaging in certain ways to advocate for those groups. So I think I've hopefully done enough opening sort of preamble here to set the stage and kind of at least set you up to talk about what you want to talk about. My guest, of course, is Jeremiah Harding. This is your, like, I don't know, umpteenth time on the show.
I think maybe 8th.
Something like that. You're up there. You know, and my comment section is never happy. I have a pretty diverse audience, so no matter who I have on, there's people going, "That was a great conversation. I loved it," and then other people going, "Why'd you talk to that guy? I hate that guy." It's just like I talk to everybody, and if you're not here for that, then like I literally don't like. I want everybody to watch my show and to be interested in what I talk about, but the people who want to come and say, I don't know why you talk to that guy. It's like, you know what? If you don't like a certain guest I have, then just don't listen to that episode. Listen to the next one. Or I'd challenge you, maybe listen, this is my general rule. I think people I disagree with, and even people I don't like, they're probably going to know something I don't, and I can learn from them. And maybe in the conversation, they can learn from me. And that's kind of the whole libertarian idea is we talk to each other. So anyway, I'm done being a bad host and not letting the guest speak. You can go ahead and
Yeah,
the floor is yours.
like honestly, I think having a solid intro is kind of like necessary, because the thing is, I am like an externality in a lot of libertarian spaces. And a lot of people in these circles actively want me canceled, even the people who hate cancel culture, allegedly. Um, and like a lot of people just have no idea like anything about me, proverbially. And the stuff that they have heard is mostly stuff they've heard. They're not actually willing to engage with what I have to say. So like actually being able to frame it in a way that like gets your audience at least on board with maybe listening is a good idea. But the particular post in question is a post by the Libertarian Party of Colorado. And the Libertarian Party of Colorado uh, is reversing course. So the first thing that I have to say is the way that the tweet sort of asked the question is, should we pander to anyone? No, we should not pander. We should be genuine, because pandering is something that you can do for any number of causes that you don't believe in. The purpose of pandering is not to specifically speak to something that you agree with. It's to say something you don't agree with, because it's the only way that those people will listen to you. I think we should be genuine libertarians and pander to exactly nobody. But what that means is being genuine libertarians and being willing to say the unpopular thing that will piss off a significant portion of our base. In this particular case, the Libertarian Party of Colorado is reversing course on some truly bad messaging that the official page has been using for a significant period of time. Because the new administration is run by people of the opposite stripe. People who, for instance, won't sell out Chase Oliver by endorsing, probably illegally, an opposing candidate in the form of either RFK Jr. or Trump, and helping fundraise and run massive rallies for them. They're trying to shake that. They had an entire election that completely like disempowered the previous guard. Hannah Goodman is pissed. Wiley is pissed. They're all pissed.
Hannah's
And
so pissed she apparently joined the Democrats, which I gotta say, I didn't have that on my 2025 bingo card.
and like Hector Ruse, they're all these corrupt little weasels are angry that Colorado might actually be libertarian. And here's the deal. Libertarians are supposed to be an alternative. And the Republicans and Democrats both serve a generally authoritarian right-wing paradigm. Now, that sounds insane to some people, but the general truth is that the Democrat Party does not support minority rights. The Democrat Party panders. The Democrat Party acts for the moment like maybe we'll give LGBT people some liberties, as long as they vote for us and suck us off. They'll give us, we'll give them, maybe some liberties in exchange for them constantly voting for us, constantly campaigning for us, vote blue no matter who, give us the votes regardless of whether or not we earn it or are bad in other ways. They do the same shit with black people, with Mexican immigrants. Who remembers Biden saying, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Shut up. Shut up.
Yeah.
I'm resisting swearing on this holy temple here. But like, generally speaking, I would definitely have used the full phrase. Generally speaking, the Democrat Party does everything the Republican Party does. It has the same general donor base. It has the same general goals. And that's why, after they lost the Trump election, they immediately asked, "Did we get too woke? We should immediately take a hard curve back to the right." And here's the reason that's incredibly stupid. They were already doing that. And that was a core complaint of the Democrat base. That like, a lot of the people on the left that joined the Democrat Party and voted blue did so because they wanted representation. And they didn't get that representation last time. They were already asking, well, maybe we should have some border control. Well, maybe we should have some LGBT control. Well, maybe the blacks really are criminals. All of this, pandering to the right. Because they were like, man, Biden sucked. Kamala isn't doing much better. And people are looking into her past. This isn't good. We need damage control. Let's pander to the right. And it's not because they were doing something, so overtly counter to their principles. It's just that their principles are so thin, if any, that they constantly settle for absolutely nothing. It's like when Will McAvoy in the newsroom says, if liberals are so great, how come we lose so goddamn always? Like,
Yeah,
it's
no, I know. I
exactly
love that
that.
clip. Yeah.
And that, by the way, that show is excellent, but it's also sort of like liberal porn. Like the establishments, the institutions, all they need to do is go back to what they were back in the good old days.
Yeah, but I like that at least had the willingness to say America is not the greatest country in the world. Like, that's
Yeah,
why I liked that clip originally, because I just knew it would, like, anger all the,
yeah.
the right people.
That drew me in, and I watched the entire series. I liked it. I'm going on record, but it's porn, and I'm just gonna but either way, so I want to get started after my little anti-democrat tirade there for a bit, because here's the thing. A lot of people, because of the associations I have, and because of the ideas I have, and because of the things I'm going to say tonight, are going to assume that I'm some Democrat shill. I am not. I was
No,
very
I
vocal.
and I'll vouch for you, like, in spite of our disagreements on certain things, that you're very consistent, and I think that I'm pretty comfortable saying that I think you punch left, maybe not as frequent, but just as hard as you punch right.
Yeah,
Right, which I think you'd probably say the same thing about me generally. Like, I maybe I don't punch right as often as I punch left, but when I punch right, I generally like it's not held back.
yeah. Well, and the
Especially
thing is,
especially I'm a little pissed off because it's like I got duped into voting for this administration, and now
yeah,
I'm, like, extra pissed. Like, okay, you didn't just do the normal amount of lying. You did, like, you know, lying, not doing promises, and then, like, you know, doubling down in all the worst ways you possibly could. So I've definitely, had a bit of a vengeance towards this administration, but
yeah. Well, and so just to start this all off, I want to give people some flavor here. So, would you do me a favor and share the aforementioned video?
Yep. All right.
Make sure you do it from the absolute start. There we go.
You tell me, why aren't people married?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's the women.
Is it the women, Nick?
A lot of women want to be raped, or she's your fucking wife. She's your dominion. You own her. Women can be mothers, they can be prostitutes, or they can be nuns. That's really it. And women are out there naked, and they're killing babies, and they're getting to be 300 pounds, and they get in your face, and we can't do anything about it. You can't punch them. They don't arrest them. And she is subject to you. She is your subject. She is your helper. What happened in the good old days? They would dunk them in the river, burn them alive. This is the kind of thing that we need to see more of. We gotta burn her alive. She's bearing false witness. She's lying about men. Women these days, they're fucking fake. And basically, we need to capture her and throw her in the lake. Or set her on fire. I feel like that would be more appropriate. That sounds bad when I say it like that. And everybody said, oh, this is horrible. Is this guy for real? Yeah, I'm for real. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. They're doing all this. They're doing this. They're making these fake shit. I just wanna. But part of it is they have to pretend like they don't. See, that's a joke. That's a total joke. I would never raise my hand to a woman. Unless she had it coming. In which case, man, we gotta fucking live with these people. And she is your dependent, just like your children. Here comes the airplane. And women should be treated like children, basically. Women don't age like wine, they age like milk. Not like your buddy. Your best friend should be another guy. Your wife is your wife. And if you really enjoy the company of your wife that much, I have bad news for you. You're gay. Dating women is gay. Having sex with women is gay. Because that's who really loves the company of women. I've said it so many times, and it's so true. The whole age of consent thing is really a feminist social construct. I gotta find my 16-year-old wife. Probably when I turn 30. And you realize that women 100 years ago were sort of demure, coy, and reserved because they were oppressed. It's your body, my choice. There was an over-the-top oppression, like real sexism, real male leadership. Glass ceiling? Dude, it's a ceiling made of fucking bricks. You will never break it. And there was this deep shame around a woman. Your stupid face keeps hitting the brick ceiling. They weren't liberated. That's the thing. They were liberated, and now they're, we will keep you down forever. So the only way to get them back the way that they need to be, you will never control your own bodies, is to undo the liberation. Never gonna happen, sweetie. Which means dominion. Your body, our choice. I'm not surprised why women don't support me. Women are irrational and sensitive.
Honestly, is it the women, Nick?
I am a risless, unfuckable chud. That's how it is. That's how I was born. I'm an incel, so it's over for me.
Wow. That was something else. Jeremiah got I don't think he got booted. I think his internet crashed. So he messaged me, said he'll be back. So I don't know what he was gonna say on his point there with that, but yeah, no, that's a fair point, Nick. Or what the guy raised to you, Nick. I don't know who's this guy again. I think it was Will Hitchens. Like, is it really the women, Nick? Like, is it the women who are at fault here? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a laundry list of things to not like Nick Fuentes about. But even if you kind of like skip over the low-hanging fruit, the fact that he peddles Christianity and then has such a low view of women is just bonkers to me. And it's also kind of weird because he's Catholic. And like the whole Catholic thing is about like venerating Mary, and that's part of what, like, I'm not a Catholic, but and Christianity is not perfect. It obviously has a mixed, like a complicated history in terms of some Christians supporting slavery, some Christians supporting racism, and some Christians supporting sexism. And yet, when you compare Christianity to surrounding religions and cultures, and there's even been like feminists who have made this argument that Christianity was actually, for its time and including today, like the most, if you want to use the term, egalitarian or pro-woman religion that there ever was. I was just talking about how it's so stupid that Nick Fuentes hates women when he's a freaking Catholic. Like, their whole thing is like venerating Mary, and like the foundation of Christianity was like, there's so many things in the Gospels that like push against this whole anti-women thing. Like, it was women who first discovered Jesus in the tomb, that he had come back to life, right? Like, Jesus so many times was like accused by his enemies of like, not only, he hangs out with tax collectors and with sinners, and with women, right? Because they had very derogatory views of women, but he had women followers. Some of the you study early church history, and there are so many like early church martyrs who were women. It's just like, dude, like, yeah, like you're not even even if you're just LARPing as a Christian, you're not even doing a good job.
And that's the thing.
Anyway.
Like, so first off, apologies for the browser crash. I have no idea why that happened, but like that is why people should understand the threat, because Tucker Carlson is a laundromat. What he does is he launders perception for otherwise unseemly characters. And he does it in the name of going there and talking to people other people won't. Now, that'd be one thing if he was talking to everyone. He's not. He never will. The truth is, he's not going to talk to everyone because he has a donor base. And because his new audience craves the attentions of people like Nick Fuentes. Those people in Nick Fuentes' audience are expecting that kind of edge. The reason they like him is not because he's actually making a wide variety of truly salient and intellectual points. It's because he talks about beating the shit out of women.
Well, it's all grievance based. Like it's and there's this weird thing with people like Fuentes, which, and I don't know, like you can let me know if you disagree. Like you might disagree with the extent of this, but I feel like you might agree with this kind of in theory, where I feel like part of their stick, it's hard to know how much of what they say that they believe, which isn't even a defense of what they say. Like it doesn't make it better. Like if you're just like, oh, I like saying Nazi stuff and I like talking about like, crude things about women because I just know it's going to offend the libs, right? It's going to own the libs. It's like, now listen, there's also plenty of times where Nick, I think, just mask off, is advocating for fascism and stuff like that in the past and for authoritarianism. But it's like, it's just all of this stuff. Like, even if you try to give it some, because I think the complicated thing is that like, he's right now he's 26. Like he started out, he was just like 18 when he started doing all this stuff. And that there's a lot of people who are chronically online who get into that edgelord stuff because they probably have some prejudice and some like issues that they're dealing with. But it's also partly just like, it's the same thing like when you get on when I was a kid, it was like, you get on Xbox Live and on Halo and people say awful derogatory things and whatnot in chat rooms and whatnot, or like AOL instant messaging and things like that. Like there's always been these kind of like, this kind of like edgelord performative behavior in young people. But like generally people like, if they go through like a normal progression where they're not living online and they're not kind of put through this weird ringer like Nick was, like they do eventually kind of usually grow out of that phase to some extent. Even if they don't become like great people, they don't usually stay at that iteration. But Nick's like, he never stopped being the 18-year-old edgelord who says the most offensive thing. And that's not, now again, to some extent over time, he's probably adopted a lot of those offensive things into his actual views. And then now in terms of like him being on Tucker and him being on like Dave Smith's show and other stuff, it's like, when he's on those shows, he's not saying not everything he said on those shows was good, but he's not saying the most outrageous thing. And he's just like, well, I'm just being an edgelord and I'm just being funny.
Yes.
Really what I want is just to live in a society where, even if I'm a little bit racist, like I do think we need to have everyone's rights protected and things like that. And I'm just trying to push the Overton window and things like that. Even if you give a charitable interpretation about that, and listen, I'm someone who wants people to change. I think that like my entire issue with a lot of the left, including a lot of left libertarians, and I think their approach to racism and to bigotry is wrong. I think it's been shown not to work. You have to find some ways to challenge these people where you're also kind of like giving them a place to eventually land to kind of like give them the like, hey, you like there is a redemption arc in here for you. Like you don't have to be who you are right now for the rest of your life, right? But that doesn't exist oftentimes on the left. There's not enough Daryl Davises. There's just a lot of so it's complicated. I don't know that I agree with your assessment of Tucker entirely. I think that like I listened to that full interview and I think that Tucker definitely left like I don't know why like I would have challenged the whole Stalin thing because I think that's dumb.
There were a lot of things Tucker should have challenged.
But there were things that Tucker did challenge. Like he challenged him on the like when you say, which I thought the most important part, at least the part that like I care about the most, is the whole when we're talking about Israel and rejecting Israel's war against the Palestinians and saying it's unjust and talking about even like this is a tough thing to talk about, but like talking about there is a element of Jewish identity that gets wrapped up into being pro-Zionist and supporting the Israel lobby, which then does it's like a back and forth thing, right? Like the Israel lobby exudes influence on the American government exudes influence on the Israeli government, and they're in this like, you know, kind of symbiotic relationship. And like you should be able to talk about that, but then also say, I'm not saying that like we blame all these things on the Jews. It's not the Jewish people. We should not say it's all Jew. And Tucker challenged him on that, and Dave Smith challenged him
Yeah,
on
but
that.
he's not going to stop. And that's the thing. If you bring on, for instance, if I brought on a child rapist and said, man, I'm with you on everything, but when you rape kids, that's a bad thing to do. And then we moved on as the person says, well, maybe I'll do it a little bit less. Maybe I'll be a little bit understanding of your position. Maybe I'll, you know, I'll act like I'm on your side. That's, you know, not great.
Trust me, there's absolutely a danger there, which I recognize that, like, if you want to be charitable, you're like, man, wouldn't it be great if Nick was starting to try to moderate his views and he's being genuine, right? Like maybe he is starting to, as he gets older, he's starting to mature and he started like after Charlie Kirk died, he came out and said like, hey, I don't think we should be going down this road of more violence and revenge and things like
He
that.
does though. And that's
Right.
the
But I'm just saying, like, you can hear him say those things and you can hope, like, man, I wish he's being genuine. But it's fair to express some sort of like skepticism to be like, well, like maybe I hope you're doing that, but it's just as likely, at least, if not more likely, perhaps, you would probably argue, that you're just trying to build yourself some credible deniability. And
Yes.
you're just trying to earn yourself a little bit of like, oh, maybe if people who have only heard bad things about me see that I'm, you know, now trying to be moderate, I can trick them into thinking that I'm not as bad or the things I've said are not as bad as what people say I do, which I still think is going to be a losing gambit because as you just showed, like we have the internet. Like we can go back and see all the things you said, man. And it's not just like a, you know, he's not a touring comedian who's just said a couple like, you know, edgy jokes. You know, he's done these performative bits and he has his audience, you know, sort of like it's this weird kind of like not I mean it's kind of cult like, but it's also like this weird like
it's a cult.
Well, it's also like, but it's also like this weird like incel thing, right? Like where it's a bunch of like well, we can't get women, so we're just gonna say women are gross and being with women is gay. And it's like they're all kind of like dysfunctional and they're sort of feeding off of and enabling their dysfunction and making it like their identity in a way.
And here's the thing, like the kinds of people in his audience are not good people. And the reason they're attracted to somebody like ideologically or whatever that says things like, I want a pure, untouched, innocent 16-year-old virgin to marry when I'm 30 and have sex with no condom, just go to town. Now now you're cooking with gas. That's the thing he said. You know, when he says that, he's not lying. His audience is attracted to that mentality because they're also depraved. And that's just Nick Fuentes, right? Like, there are so many other examples that I could give, like Elon Musk directly promoting the work of Nazi Emily Yukis, or a variety of other things that I like. These people are a part of an ecosystem, and that's the thing. Like, the Libertarian Party of Colorado, just to make sure that we're on the actual subject of libertarians, they said in like March, they posted a meme that says, "We killed our best men to kill Europe's best men, our brothers, so that Epstein types could make trillions and satanic drag queens can read homosexual pornography to children. You are not radicalized enough." That is Nazi propaganda. And it's the same kind of Nazi propaganda, by the way, that's being passed around in the Liberty Plus Nazi.
Is that post still up, or the new people take it down?
I'm pretty sure it's still up.
And I'm not saying because they don't trust you, but like just it's easier if I'm reading something to respond to it than to go off of trying to remember everything you said.
I'll see if I can find it. My browser has too many tabs to like open that one, but maybe I can find it in an alternate browser. But the general gist of it is that these people want you to believe that we have more in common with Nazis because we're white than we have in common with gay people, with women, with black people, with migrants. These people need a counter signal because the audience that they attracted is evil. So when like the Libertarian Party of Colorado, like for years, attracted this audience, it's no wonder that the new administration would want to counter signal that and say, we're not like those people, and if you are, we don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying there, and I think there's something to that. I think that it gets to this. Well, this touches on two things. One, it does still touch to the like, what do we do about the fact that we live in a society where there's a lot of people with these abhorrent views?
Nazis?
Well, there's Nazis, and there's varying degrees of just alt-right and right-wing extremists and reactionaries, and I don't think like they're all Nazis, but there's certainly some Nazis.
Well, people who think
sure.
that Nazis are our brothers and Europe's best men are Nazis.
Is that what you're talking about their quote? Again, I'm not seeing it in front of me, so
Yeah,
it's hard for me to like. I have a
I'll-
really hard time reacting to stuff like this is my problem with even like podcasts and audiobooks is like just reading something. I retain it better than if someone reads me a quote and I have to like have a recall of like all the things that were said. But I think I'm not trying to minimize like, I mean, and listen, I'll do a little bit of backtrack here, and you were part of this, like. When I was with the Mises Caucus, I kind of thought that all the talk about right-wing extremism was just noise. I was like, yeah, maybe there's like a half dozen racists or something out there, right? But they're like, they're nobodies. They're inconsequential. The number of people who have these beliefs is just insignificant. It's not something we need to track or be concerned about whatsoever. Now, where we're at right now, we might disagree on this. I still think it's not. Put it this way, it is simultaneously a minority, but it's not just like a minority you can brush off as insignificant, right? Like I don't want to oversell or undersell the number of people, and this is also tough because like you're looking at people online, and you're having to kind of gauge how many of these are real people and whatnot. But still, it is not a nothing burger. And in fact, within the Liberty movement and party, it's not a nothing burger. And there are people who were once, at least outwardly, who appeared like principled libertarians, who are now, I would say full blown Nazis. And people who I
Like-
used to defend and say, I don't think this person's a Nazi. I think they've gone down a bad road, but they're not Nazis. And then
like Shane Hazel, for instance.
Shane is definitely one of them who, I mean, he's definitely at least anti-Semitic. If he's gone full Nazi, I'm open to seeing that evidence. But I
He's been
remember
sharing
you remember
full-on
I
Nazi
challenged him.
propaganda.
You remember I challenged him on his, it's the Jew stuff, and I called him out for it. I said, dude, what the heck? Like, I'm a Jew. Dave Smith is a Jew. Like, Rothbard's a Jew. Like, what do you mean it's the Jews, right? Trying to even be good faith and be like, this isn't the right way to message this stuff. And he just basically told me to, go to hell and blocked me for it. Pete Quinones is another one who who's also unfollowed me. And that was really, again, the other side of this is I see the problem, but I guess my issue is that all I see from a lot of people on the left and in the libertarian movement is just, and I'm going to swear on my own show for once, just this attitude of like, fuck those people. We hate them. They're evil. They're despicable. We need to just like, push them down to like the, a little corner of reality where they're not allowed to ever come back out. And I just don't agree with that. I don't think that, I think that's kind of what we've been doing for the last several decades, and it's not worked. I think that the suppression of these people kind of fostered this sort of like they're only talking to each other and becoming more radicalized, and that they're also like, listen, man, this maybe it's because I'm a Christian, but people are complex. Like even people who have done really evil things, I don't believe just as because of my moral system, because of what my belief in the human soul and the human spirit. Like, I don't think that even sometimes the worst people in history were just like, if you wanted to do like this weird like measurement of like, are they 100% evil? Like, no, I don't think that. And like, there's people who fall into really dangerous patterns of thinking and ideologies that are hateful and that are evil. But like, at one point they weren't that way. Like Pete Quinones is a really good example of that. Like I loved Pete. Pete was there for me during a time when my family was going through some horrible shit, man. Right. And he was checking up on me. He said he was praying for me. And he helped produce a libertarian documentary called like the most dangerous
Monopoly on Violence.
The Monopoly on Violence. Right. Like, so like, this dude's fall from grace is not like all I see is people going like, I hate him. He's awful. And I'm like, we should be mourning. We should be like, what happened? Like what is wrong in our culture or in our movement or our society? Like, and what can we do to stop not just libertarians, but young people from being sucked into these violent ideology? I mean, it's the same thing I think about Palestinians in Gaza, right? There are Palestinians in Gaza who do start hating Jews, who do become agents of Hamas and become terrorists. Not all Palestinians by any stretch, but it'd be wrong to say it's zero Palestinians, right? Obviously. So it's like we have to find this way back to in the discourse of these things to like to view wrong ideas. The ideas are evil, the ideologies are evil, and the people can be doing evil things that we need to oppose, and we need to defend innocent people from the actions of evil people. But we also got to find a way back to like understanding what drives these things and like how do we course correct? How do we reverse it? It's like it's the same thing studying history, man. Like you look at Nazi Germany, like what are we going to say? Were Germans just like born with this like hate Jew button that just got clicked one day and they just all decided to like turn on their neighbors and turn them in? No, man. It's like it's this like it's a matter of human psychology and sociology and social movements and ideology and political incentives. Like it's super complicated, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. And I'm saying this as a right winger, man. I'm saying this as someone who like I don't like the LGBT messaging and the woke left stuff, as I call it, and all that. But man, there are troubling parallels between the sort of right-wing reactionary sentiment that built up in Germany in the 30s that gave way to the Nazis and our society today. So that's not me. That's not me. Like, I'm probably not going to go as far as you on some of these things, but that's the closest you'll get out of me to saying that, like Like I'm not saying Trump is Hitler. I'm not saying MAGA or Nazis, but it's also like, you know what? Like there are stages of development that get you to Nazism, and we are at least on that train track.
So I sent the Facebook post. It is still up, and that's the thing. Like, they didn't remove any of the posts that had been there. They kept up everything, because that's kind of part of the point, is to show people the difference between this current administration and the previous one. And this post is evil. You should share your screen with it.
Yeah, I'm logging into. I haven't logged into Facebook on this computer in like forever.
Makes sense. But like, here's the thing. The Libertarian Party has always had messaging that said LGBT people should be able to exist as they are. Always. From its inception. People like the Libertarian Party of Colorado's previous administration, LPNH's current administration, the administration in places like Massachusetts and like to some extent Idaho and like many of these other places, they have a very similar mentality to sort of a very light version of Nazi, or like Nazis already. And if you can call Nazis the people that were killed by the American government in this paradigm that they listed, Europe's best men, it's because you think Nazis are Europe's best men and our brothers, and that we should align with the Nazis, who are our brothers and Europe's best men, against homosexuals, who they immediately say that are Epstein types. Trump is the Epstein type, and Libertarian Party of Colorado hated Karen Ann Harlos for going so far as to put their own candidate on the ballot instead of the Epstein type. They are lying to run cover for the fascist they endorsed, because the fascist they endorsed is closer to the Nazis that they think are Europe's best men. People they would rather be in power than the homosexuals. That's evil. It's anti-libertarian. So while I don't think we should pander to LGBT people, it's not pandering to LGBT people to put up something on the Libertarian Party of Colorado's page that supports them for fucking once. After all of this time, I scrolled just now to hit this post in March, past so many anti-LGBT memes, calling them communists, saying they're groomers, saying, mocking their suicide, mocking their physical appearance, mocking them in general, treating them like garbage. This is not libertarianism. So for this post to come out, it refreshes a lot of people. It makes a lot of people understand that this isn't just, wrapping paper over the same kind of mentality, that it's a different mentality leading this particular administration, and it's an actually libertarian one, because there is nothing anti-libertarian in that image, the one that you objected to. There's plenty anti-libertarian in many of the images that had been shared before.
Yeah, and I don't think I had seen that one that you shared. If they shared it, because I'm not on Facebook hardly ever, but if they shared that on Twitter, if it would have come up in my feed, I would have objected to it. I mean, I've called out LPNH and LP Colorado when they put out blatantly Nazi crap, and I was like,
Yes.
no, this is not okay. So it's not a matter of unwillingness to call that stuff out.
Sure, and I'm not.
I think right, okay, and I just, well, there's some people who will, which maybe they have a right to be skeptical or whatnot of if I would call that stuff out, but I did, And when I started to write my post against the new stuff from LP Colorado, that was the trans, it was it was basically like the LP Louisiana meme of armed minorities are harder to kill with the pride flag
Yeah.
behind it. I tried to be much more charitable in my pushback to kind of say, listen, there's nothing unlibertarian here because I agree with the right of trans people to have guns. And I've spent many months arguing with Republicans online who want to, like, even if you want to, which to be, I'll just put all my cards on the table. Like I've said this before, I'm a evangelical Christian and I have a biblically informed based on what I think is an orthodox view of Christianity on what marriage is and what human sexuality is, and just our identity as men and women, male and female, that God created us at. And we've had conversations about this in the past. But like, I don't hate trans people or gay people or wish violence upon them. And even if I did, I would hopefully be smart enough to realize that giving the government the ability to say, we're going to take guns from any group of people because we don't like them, or to say you're mentally ill and so therefore we can take your guns, is not only unlibertarian, but it's just like the most like suicidal policy ever, to give the government that kind of ability to just decide you're, because of your beliefs or your lifestyle or whatever, your religion, and you're not hurting anyone else, but just because of your beliefs, we're like, because there's so much that goes into the right to bear arms. Like, if you take away someone's right to bear arms, you're basically either labeling them a criminal or like not capable of being a like autonomous adult. So at that point, like, we're already, we and I are anarchists, like we already know we're slaves to the state. But there's a difference between the kind of like soft slavery we're in now and like the state can just literally like completely go from just having the threat of taking everything away from you to like they've actually done it. And Republicans arguing for these red flag laws and for disarming trans people, I mean, they're advocating for a total state, for total state uh enslavement of people that whoever is in charge decides
And
that they don't like.
and you're aware that Trump is like actively calling you a terrorist, right? You.
Oh, I mean, for many things. I mean, when he tried to say we should ban flag burning, I had people talk me off the ledge to be like, Jacob, you have 5 kids. Don't do it and get like accidentally arrested for it. But when he said he was going to ban flag burning, I mean, like, I literally went to the store and bought flags. I was like, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to my backyard and I'm going to film it. I'm going to burn these flags because screw this guy. Like, I don't care if they send I'll get fire someone to represent me. Like, if I get arrested for it. I don't think they ever actually started enforcing that too hard except at protests. But still, just like the fact that you even threaten free speech. Yeah, there's a lot about this administration, man, that like, I think that all administrations of the past like several decades have been fascistic, but we're definitely moving from fascistic to just fascist.
Well,
no modifier.
You know about the NVEs, right?
What does it stand for?
Nihilistic violent extremism.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you know what their classifications are, right?
Yeah, is this kind of like I've seen like there's the different like the informational propaganda for the intelligence agencies. Like, here are all these extremist groups and their symbols and their ideologies and their beliefs. And yeah, like they have anarcho-capitalists on there. They have people who just wave the Gadsden flag on there.
This is newer. So
okay.
The thing about it is that this goes back to some executive orders. And in these executive orders, Trump lists some classifications. And nihilistic violent extremism includes so many categories. I'm trying to bring it up. But basically, the categories that nihilistic violent extremism includes being anti-America. It includes being, anarchist. It includes not being Christian. It includes being,
Well, then they should arrest themselves because they're a bunch of phonies. not
Yes.
Christian.
And so that's the thing. Like, ultimately speaking, this administration is not fascist adjacent. It's not Nazi adjacent. It is Nazis, because the Nazi government did the same thing. The Nazi government itself operated by banning basically any form of Christianity that didn't directly serve the state, and that's like 99% of them. So the last church was like this bastard version of Christianity that was willing to suck off the Reich. And like the majority of religion in the Reich was paganism. It was a very botched and completely distorted version of paganism, but paganism. That's the reason you'll see like all these runes and Sonnenrad and all this other stuff, because that's their aesthetic. That's their, that's part of their vibe. And when you have those sorts of people, like dictating what type of Christian you're allowed to be, it's because they believed specifically that certain Christianity served the Jew too much. And in this particular case,
Well, this gets complicated with what we're going through right now, but I'll let you continue.
This administration is doing something very similar, except this administration is narrowly defining Christianity to be that which supports Trump. And so that which opposes Trump is going to be, a banned form of Christianity. You cannot, like, there was that pastor who was at a protest protesting ICE and got a point blank pepper ball to the face. Because
I remember that.
Yeah. And the Christian church did not speak out for the vast majority of the case. The Christian church did not care, because the Christian church is co-opted. The Christian church is bought by people like, Paula White, and Joel Osteen and all these other, mega evangelists. And they do not want to talk about when this administration does something so overtly anti-Christian and evil as to directly hit anyone with an LTL, because you're not supposed to do that, much less directly in the face, because a pastor was preaching Christianity about not ripping families up and zip tying toddlers and, smashing up windows and doors and forced trafficking and putting them in concentration camps and all this other, like, this.
Well, hold on, Jeremiah. Didn't you know that if we don't deport all the immigrants, that they don't like liberty, and so they'll destroy our cultural values of valuing the Constitution and liberty and limited government?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
it's just, I mean, like, it's tough, man. I go to church with people who support this stuff, and it's tough because, again, this is what I'm saying, that like this is what I'm warning against. It's not that I see the problem that you're talking about, and yet I think the same thing happened in Nazi Germany that happened today, which is that people who otherwise might be decent and think that they're moral, they start accepting what is evil, and they start thinking it's good because of this complicated mixture of propaganda and this reactionary mindset. And this, I mean, this is the problem with all statism, in my opinion, is that people are already in a state of compartmentalizing their like individual morality from their political beliefs. They go like, well, I would not, ever want to advocate violence for people, but like they'll advocate for violence all day when it comes to the state doing it, right? And so it's this sort of like cognitive dissonance that people already have, that's also kind of a it creates the fertile ground for then, like, when they get radicalized, they can be like they can think they're perfectly justified in everything that they're advocating for. Right. And like you would like, it's like people who like this happened in Nazi Germany, man. Like people who are like people like had Jewish neighbors that probably like at one point they were like going like walking over to like borrow a cup of flour or sugar or something, right? And then 5 years later, they're like pointing them out to the SS officers. Like this shit happened. And the same stuff's happening now when it comes with all sorts of people. And immigrants right now probably being the group that's most targeted.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. Ephesians 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed from your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. And also be sure to take a video, an AI video of you in a crown in a jet spewing diarrhea on people who don't like you. That last part wasn't in there. You know, for some reason, Christians are not willing to hold Trump accountable to his anti-Christian antics. And that is going to result in a false prophet who can get away with whatever and then just hide behind God.
Yeah, dude, it like I literally I was at a men's retreat like at this point like 3 weeks ago maybe, and the conversation, like we're all just kind of like hanging out after like a day of just like, like at a men's retreat, like there'll be like sessions where people are preaching and then they'll go do games and then more. So like all that's done. Some people are going and playing basketball, but like some of us are just hanging out and we're just like talking like movies and pop culture. And then somehow like we briefly made a pit stop and talking about history, and then it got into politics, man. And like it was divided, like, because literally, like on one side, we have a prominent member of the church who's saying like, well, I voted for Trump and I don't think that he's that bad. I don't agree with everything he says. And, but I think he's better for the country than Harris would have been. And then another prominent member of the church going, I think he's a wannabe dictator and maybe not even wannabe. I think he's a fascist. And I think he's a threat to our society. Like, and you ask yourself, like, well, hold on. We all go to the same. It's one thing when you have Christians in different churches, right? But even Christians in one church, a church that I think is theologically sound, because that's why I go to it. And there's people there who are divided on this issue. And I think it's because, and we'll probably have to wrap up soon. I'm sorry I started late, but it's getting late and my wife needs me to come help her with something. But we'll go for like 5 more minutes. And we'll probably have to do like a part 2 on this because there's so much here that needs talked about. Let me get out, I think, the 2 most important things I want to get across. Because you're right, the church has been co-opted. This is not new, though. It's been going on for a long time. I mean, this was what drove me out of right-wing politics and evangelicalism when I was young, because I realized you're all morally bankrupt and you say you're pro-life, but you just advocated for 1 million Iraqis and Afghanis and Arab people to die. So like, don't tell me you're pro-life. Shut the F up. So the church has been co-opted for a long time by different groups, but especially the Republican Party. And that's still going on today. But I think the deeper problem is the lack of conversation. Now, I think that 2 things are true at the same time. I think that Tucker and Dave and others having conversations with Fuentes, there's a version of that. There's 2 versions of that which aren't good. And you might say that Tucker and Dave were too far on one side, where you're just kind of like whitewashing over the problems and only challenging softly. I think it's difficult when you're doing this on a podcast with someone with a big following, and like there's always this incentive to be, as a podcaster, to be like, well, like, let me pick, like, listen, there's a bunch of things you've said in this show, not a bunch, but a handful of things that I could have stopped and said, hold on, I disagree and I want to fight you on that, right? Now, with someone like Fuentes, you might go, but his stuff is just way more evil. And I think it's tough because it's like, not everyone, I think you're good at this. I don't think that not everyone wants to sit there because with Fuentes, it's almost like, where would you start, man? Like, we're going to hold you accountable for everything you've ever said. I mean, that'd be like a 24-hour podcast if you even got to go through everything. So I think some people are trying to take a tact, which I generally agree with, where it's not like, hey, we're going to just cancel and demonize people like Fuentes. And on the other hand, they're like, well, we obviously don't we can't just whitewash him and just like accept him back in to be like, oh, you can just say that you don't believe any of the horrible things you said and we just let you in. There has to be an organic process, not just with Fuentes, but just with people in general with these bad mindsets, where we have to have genuine conversations, not performative ones, where we talk about, hey, I think this thing you're doing is evil, and we need to have a conversation about it to actually like get people to confront the consequences of their beliefs. And that is a hard thing to do psychologically sometimes, because people can be very much like with the inertia and the momentum that they're in, they can be, they'll dig their heels in, right? Psychologically, you get people to change their minds more when you kind of start out by saying, hey, like, you and I are friends, you and I are part, like, you don't want to, like, in their brains make that thing go off that says like, hey, we're part of different tribes, and so you're going to view me as the enemy, and you're going to just like disagree with everything I said. Now you got to like bypass that if you want to hope to speak to them or anyone who's listening to that conversation. And it's not going to be perfect, but my worry is that if we don't try our hardest to here's to be clear here, I'm not saying we don't call out the evil policies of the government, of this Trump administration. And I'm not saying that we should gloss over evil things that people say and advocate for, but we have to find this more sophisticated way of, like, Daryl Davis is the best example of this. And that way is harder, right? But I don't know another way out of this tract we're on, because history kind of bears out that, like, if you don't find a way to have these conversations with people and to de-radicalize them, that just kind of like it like, well, here's the other, it either, what happens is it becomes bloody, and it becomes bloody because you go full fascist and then you get war. And
But
I don't think, and I think we would agree that, like, we don't want that.
But here's the thing, like, if you cannot call out the worst things that people say because you have limited time, limited emotional and psychic bandwidth, limited, potential friendliness, like, it means that the person has probably said something pretty terrible. Like, Nick Fuentes talking about wanting to, like, have sex with a child because a 16-year-old is a child. And anybody who wants to have sex with a 16-year-old is a pedophile. Epstein's average age range was 14. And Megyn Kelly recently went on the defensive about Epstein himself, saying that, oh, no, but this other person says he's not a pedophile because he was into teenagers, and pedophiles are into prepubescent. No, they're not. That's not what the word ever meant. It means, like, being attracted to children. The word pedo in the original translation implies under 18, which was the age of seniority in Greece, where the word comes from. So the idea that it isn't, and the idea that we aren't dealing with Epstein types in enabling people like Fuentes, is asinine. It was asinine when people acted like Matt Walsh should be like a guide for us on what is a woman, when he thought a 16-year-old was a woman and said that it should be okay for an adult to impregnate her. All of these people.
Matt Walsh said that?
Yes. He says,
I need to see that.
He says they're adults. I don't care what anybody thinks. And, like, while that was a significant period of time ago, he hasn't retracted it. He still believes it. And this is the kind of people we're dealing with. Matt Gaetz on Tucker Carlson being like, when he says, like, 17, Tucker says, the meme goes, like, Tucker says 17-year-old woman, 17-year-old girl, and Matt Gaetz is like 17-year-old woman. And Tucker is just taken aback for a moment. Like, why Why are you dying on that hill? What? Because Matt Gaetz is a pedophile and he would routinely show pics of his conquests to people in Congress. Like, he has a reputation for that. There was a key Trump staffer who was getting pics from teens. Daniel Perry, the guy that Greg Abbott pardoned for murdering Garrett Foster. He was soliciting young girls on Kik and was actively talking to people he knew to be underage because he's a pedophile. And all of these people, there's a reason the Epstein files aren't out yet. It's because these people are Epstein types. And so when the Libertarian Party of Colorado wants to act like LGBT people are an outsized representative of the pedophile class and routinely pander to the right, that is the messaging that needs to be countered. Instead of saying, some weird pandering message like LGBT people are all awesome, which is not what they were saying in that post. They were saying they have the right to arm themselves and will be oppressed less if they are. And to me, that's awesome. That is a great counter signal to the bigoted audience that they have been building up forever. And that is exactly what we need to do. We need to counter signal that.
See, and like, I get what you're saying, but like, what's just as likely to happen from that is it just fuels that culture war cycle and raises the temperature. And then the people who are already going down that slippery slope are just going to, fall into it or jump into it faster.
But
So that's my concern with all of this, especially from like, what do we do as libertarians with our messaging? And my issue with the pride flag stuff, and it might be like the I don't know, like there's worse examples out there of this, but I just think that left and right and the way that they
but how is this
counter single each other, it just like it seems to me to be just like raising this ever ending escalation of like, we're under attack from this side, so we need the levers of power to defend ourselves.
How is this left wing? Let me ask you that. How is this post a left wing post? In what way does this particular post specifically signal the left? Unless you are saying that the right in its nature is exclusionary of these people.
No, I think that I think that, like, listen, I've messaged in ways that say that I think we need to defend the rights of trans people and LGBT people. I don't think that's inherently left wing. I think that the pride flag imagery itself in that branding is just empirically, it's been used by the left.
So American flags.
Well, but that's used ubiquitous, like left and right use that because it represents a nation.
And if the right uses the pride flag more, it would be more ubiquitous. So why not increase that ubiquity in an attempt to reduce the temperature rather than say it should be hidden to artificially have seemingly lower temperature while people still believe the same things that they otherwise would?
You could try that. It's just there's a lot of people on the right who aren't going to do it. So, like, yeah, in theory, if everyone did it, you'd be able to accomplish that.
Then isn't that the problem? Isn't it the problem that the people on the right would rather work with somebody who says Hitler is cool than post a pride flag?
Well, I mean, that's definitely I'll grant you that the one is way worse than the other.
So why not go with the one that isn't as worse and just make it ubiquitous? Say we will accept these people, even if it pisses off our base, even if, like, you made this wonderful list of cases for including people like Nick Fuentes in the conversation. But when I'm talking about including LGBT people in even the symbology you reel back, that's a problem, because if they can't even have their symbols, while Nick Fuentes gets to fly swastikas, Groiper frogs, Sonnenrads, say Heil Hitler, and a bunch of
Well,
other things.
to be clear, because I get what you're saying, and there's a point there. But what I even started at the beginning was saying was that I think it's great if we have organizations in the liberty movement who do that kind of messaging, even. But because I think it's less problematic if you have specialization than if you have the LP official accounts doing
But
it.
it's in the platform, and it has been since the 70s. The Libertarian Party has always been in defense of these people. So why should it suddenly
Well, it should be,
not,
and I'm not saying it shouldn't be in defense of these people.
just not using the symbols that indicate that they are?
I guess I tie
Not-
those symbols in with a sort of, and we've talked about this before, is like I view them as part of the sort of state psyop to sort of use trans people and LGBT
Is
people.
that flag
as
created by the state, though?
it was created by people who had an ideology that I disagree with, that I think is kind of part of the sort of critical theory woke mindset within the mainstream leftist institutions.
The Libertarian Party last year flew the symbology of Libertarian Party funded rallies with AI generated pro-Trump images. Rescue the Republic was a MAGA Maha rally, and it fundraised directly for the state, just the Republican one. And this is just like the latest. Samuel Edward Konkin III, agorist guy, he very specifically in his new Libertarian Manifesto acknowledged the threat of the Koch brothers and right-wing money and think tanks and influence in libertarian spaces. And he specifically said that it was an attack on libertarians. The Koch brothers are Nazi offshoots. Fred Koch ran Hitler's biggest oil refinery. The Koch family fortune is a family fortune of Nazi oil money. And so when they came down the pike and said, we hate communists, no shit you do. And the Koch family is just one of them. It's also the Wilkes, who are in charge of things like Prager and the Daily Wire, which many alleged libertarians like. It's also, like so many examples that I could bring up of just like Rupert Murdoch, his right-wing media empire with the New York Post and various Times and Daily Mail and Fox News. It's all of these people who are part of a right-wing ecosystem that is fueled by billionaires. Like they always cry about Soros, but never Elon Musk and his massive right-wing media empire. And all of these people are fueling a giant pro-state message, but it's a right-wing pro-state message.
So let's say I grant you.
Pardon me if I think that the pro-state message is not overtly and specifically a pride flag, but if anything, the opposite. This government welcomed Nazis before, during, and after the war and helped them get out of there with the MK programs, paperclip.
No, you're definitely right in terms of we definitely co-opted a lot of Nazi scientists and people and thinkers and ideology. No argument from me on that.
Crowd in the libertarians' faces being like, we love this guy for murdering communists, and like they don't account for his child raping like concentration camps. I wonder why. Because these people are the state, and the state is overwhelmingly right-wing. So pardon me for saying that the state, who like LGBT people have had to fight and scrape for any inches against, might be not the state apparatus, because its symbols are flown by some people in the state. That maybe the actual state is the one that they've had to fight against this long, that the Libertarian Party had to be at their six from the start, and is now actively having pushback against the concept of even flying the flag.
I guess what this comes down to, and I'm not trying to create false equivalencies here, because there's clearly things that can be worse than other things, but I just don't, me personally, and I might just have to say this is me personally, maybe the Libertarian Party is going to go a different way, and I'm not going to lose my mind over it. I have my concerns and disagreements with it, but I think that I can be against everything you just said, but also like I can be against the Nazi ideology that's undergirding a lot of the stuff on the right I don't like, but then also say there's ideologies on the left, including in the LGBT movement, when you study its history and founding, like from the queer liberation movement and things like that, that I also don't agree with, not just from a Christian perspective, from a uh, philosophical and political perspective. So,
Well, like
it,
what we got? Because I actually know some debunks here. Maybe
oh,
this would be a whole new can of worms to unpack. Because I think that I know the kinds of things you're going to bring up, and I actually have a better history of it than you've probably been told.
well, maybe that's true. So maybe that's what, because I don't have that stuff in front of me, but I will put together everything that I remember doing when I've done deep dives on the founding of the flag and the gay rights movement and things like that. Which
Okay.
is not, it's not ubiquitous, but there's things there and ideologies there that I disagree with, that I think are based in a sort of postmodern, post-structuralist kind of critical theory approach, which I think is actually anti-liberty and anti-Christian. But I'm willing to have that conversation, and maybe you can prove me wrong.
Yeah,
So
but just gonna say you didn't have nearly enough of a Kermit voice to say that sentence. You need
oh
at
boy.
least like two years eating nothing but cow balls in order to say that sentence accurately.
Oh
Like
God,
raw
can I skip getting addicted to
pills.
the pills and having to go to Russia to detox off of them?
Well, you can, but only if you also have an existential crisis every single time you have like any sort of public appearance. I didn't. If I wanted to be Jordan Peterson, I would have to like actually, break down in tears. My face would get progressively redder and redder the whole time I was discussing this. There would be no joy in my life. Everything would be a struggle. And
I
so
I like Jordan Peterson before he got addicted to benzos and before he joined the Daily Wire. He's been
See, but that's like saying I like Rush Limbaugh before he got addicted to oxys. You know, these people.
listen, we could go a whole other 10 round. Listen, man, this is a lot of fun. Like we're talking about serious stuff, and some of it's like it's gruesome. It's not fun. But listen, I just like you, man. I like talking with you. You challenge me. We disagree. We agree. We go back and forth. This is what we need more of. I know my biggest fan in the world, Archie Flowers, is in the chat and popping off and whatnot. And like, you know, he said I don't. He literally said something which made me laugh. In retrospect, now he's like, "You don't invite anyone on who disagrees with you," and I was like, "Who am I? What? Like,
I
what
think
stream are you watching?"
I think actually I'm the most common guest on this channel, which is it's interesting to say the least.
Well, I have you like you're not a dick, which is why like I'm fine with people disagreeing with me. Just like let's do it in good faith, and like you push me. You're willing to tell me when you think I'm wrong, and you sometimes you're pretty good on here. Sometimes in the DMs you get a little animated, which is but it's like this is serious stuff. It has real life consequences, and but yeah, like I I think the biggest thing, it's not just one way. Like, yeah, I think we need to talk to people on the right, and we need to talk to people on the right who have fallen into this Nazi shit. And I'm not saying we should like cuddle them, right? I'm not saying we should be soft on them, but like, we have to find a way to reach them. Because hopefully you'll agree with me. Like, just calling them evil is like maybe that's like the necessary step one, but like there has to be a step two after that, right? You can't just go, all you Nazis are evil, and then like the problem goes
So
away. Like we need something beyond that.
I have a unique solution to that, and my
All right,
solution.
this will be. Give me your neat solution to that, and this will be like you'll get the last word because we got to go because of time.
My solution to that is to nearly schizophrenically constantly observe what they're saying and read their materials and watch their videos and constantly absorb so much of it that I actually know more about their subject material than they do. Like generally speaking, it's one of the reasons that these people who I've been going against in like the Liberty Plus Nazi chats and like a variety of other places, they don't like me specifically because I know their material and they know I know it. So like, generally speaking, the solution is to know the enemy, because these people are the enemy, and we need to understand that. Like Daryl Davis didn't just say, "Oh, you know what? I love you, man. Let's go. You can keep up all the stuff you've been doing as long as we can just hug it out at the end." No, he said you've got to give me your hood as the first step.
Right,
And
but he
these
didn't do that all in one conversation, though.
Right.
Like, he had to meet with them multiple
Right.
times. And that's my point with, like, Dave and Tucker with Fuentes is, like, they both challenged him on his, like, saying it's the Jews and stuff like that. Like, and
weren't doing that in the same way Davis does, though. Does? I don't know. I don't know if he's still at it.
I don't know if he still does. And listen, like, I think it's fair to say, like, maybe there's ways to do it better, but it's just like, I just know that directionally, that's the only way I see to get out of this that doesn't end bloody, which is what I'm concerned about.
Do you know the Rainbow Coalition?
No.
So the Rainbow Coalition was 1969, and it was like a bunch of people who you normally wouldn't think would be working with one another, like the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, and the Young Patriots. And it was in Chicago, and these groups normally did not work together. But they were willing to work together as long as they were willing to put aside their grievances for the concept. And in order to do that, in order to actually work with somebody who historically has been against you, they have to make concessions. And Nick Fuentes not only didn't make concessions, but is not making concessions. He literally, like, I don't know, a week after the Tucker appearance, started to say exactly the same shit. He said exactly the same stuff that he was saying before. He doubled down.
Well, right. So
people need
so what needs to happen is he needs to be talked to again and say, hey, you've said evil shit in the past. Then you went on Tucker and Dave and said, actually, I don't want violence against people, and I want a society where rights are protected. But then since then, you've said these things. Like you need to. I'm not saying you can't challenge him. I just think that there's a sophisticated way of doing this that I don't see from the left or even like the mainstream right. It's just shrieking.
At a certain point, though, it becomes Stockholm syndrome. It becomes beaten wife syndrome. It becomes the mentality of, oh, I'll just give them chance after chance after chance and keep coming back, and maybe they'll change this time. At a certain point, you got to realize he's just not that into you.
I don't know. I get what you're saying. I think it's a I'll use another Jordan Peterson expression. There's snakes everywhere. Like, this is a hard problem to solve. We're not going to solve it all in one conversation here, but I appreciate you coming on, man. I always enjoy our conversations. I feel edified for them. I hope the audience is edified for them. I'm just going to oblige Archie because he said that you didn't call me a fascist. So I'll just put his comment up there, and there we go. This counts. You called me a fascist, Archie. Get it out of your system. But so there you go. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm sure Jeremiah will be back on soon because we didn't even get to I feel like we just opened the can of worms on this. We need like another hour and a half to like ground the worms up in our fingers and get all dirty and gritty with them.
Well,
just be real gross here.
To be clear, the term "open a can of worms" implies that you're about to start fishing. So what we should really do is sit there and fish, which means that we need to bait people, which means that we need to have a final real strong spat where we say we hate each other, so that can be used as the sizzle reel for the next presentation. That's how you do online drama. We're doing this all wrong. Yeah.
We are doing this all wrong. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do that next time. We'll script it out. Have a nice performance. It'd be like WWE, right? Pre-scripted fight.
I could get advice from Glenn Jacobs. He and I are still Facebook friends, so maybe he'd give me some advice on how to kayfabe this.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. You can follow Jeremiah on Twitter, by the way, at Insanity is free. He's definitely worth the follow. He does a lot of I thank you for your service, and I don't say that like I say that seriously because you do a lot of work covering a lot of troubled people online, to kind of put it mildly. So you guys can follow me at Biblical Anarchy. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys tonight. I'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. hosting a debate on more libertarian infighting drama. So that's what this week has been. But talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.